Okay, so now that you have your highlight on the back, you make another layer, and this time you want a really dark purple, almost black, or it could be black. Make your brush a little smaller, and now I don't want you to go in here. I want you to go about to the middle bottom of that highlight and make a little arc, okay? And then duplicate it and flip it, and then move it back onto the side. And, okay, that looks about right. Now merge that layer and go to your blur, Gaussian blur, and we're going to bring that blur down. I don't want it to be quite so wide. And then if you want, you can take your opacity down so it's not so dark, or leave it up. It's up to you. And then check that and see if that shade is in the right spot. It should be under her butt. So it's under her butt, it's in the right spot, and you just bring your opacity down to whatever you want it to be, okay? And now we're going to add another layer. So every single time you do anything, you're going to add a little layer, okay? So this time, this curves a little bit. So instead of using my rectangle select, I'm going to use my paintbrush, but I'm going to use my shift with it. So what I'm going to do is kind of in the middle. I'm going to click, hold down my shift, and go down to the top of her thigh. Let go of it, skip her knee, okay? Click, hold down my shift, and then go down there. So you can see it kind of angled it. And then I'm going to go to my layer, duplicate my layer, and now I'm going to flip it, my layer, transform and flip it. It ended up on that side, so I'm just going to go over here and merge, go to my layer and merge that layer down. And I did this in the light purple. I'm going to go back to my blur, Gaussian blur, and I want it blurred up quite a bit. And then I'm going to take my opacity down so that it's barely noticeable, okay? I want it to be noticeable, but barely. Now, while I've done this, I'm just going to duplicate my layer again and take my move button and slide it over to this side, okay? Because you're going to want that one in there, so it just saves you a step. You already did it. And I'm going to make another layer. This time I'm going to get my black, my purpley dark black, take my paintbrush. This time, where her knee is, I'm just going to make two like little, I don't know, you can, like that. And go to my layer, duplicate it, go to my layer again, transform, flip it horizontally, and move this one over to this knee. And this is the back of her knee. I'm going to go back to my layer, merge it down, and blur this one. But I don't want this one blurred that much. I kind of want there to look like there's, but I don't want it to be like lines, so I'm going to take my opacity down. So it's just a tad bit darker. Okay, so we're pretty much done with the shading on this, unless you wanted to add another layer. You can also do this with your darker on the side of that first layer. You can do a darker one like that on each side of it and blur that. Take your opacity down. It's just up to you if you want it. And then you're going to want to duplicate it and flip it and then move it over to this side. Merge that down, duplicate it, and move it over to this side. Okay, and then that just gives you like a darker shade too. You can also go to make another layer, take that dark paint, and up here, and I'm going to make this bigger so you can see, up here on her butt, and that might be a little too big, but where her butt is, if you want, you can make a little indentation, just a tiny, tiny little indentation right there at the top, and blur it. And I think it's already blurred dark, you know. I'm not even sure if it'll show because of the belt. But what it does is your butt indents right there. Okay? So that's basically what you're doing is you're trying to give the pant a 3D appearance. And a lot of times what you might want to do is look at a pair of pants, a picture of a pair of pants front and back, and see how they got it to look. Look at the shades, the lighter and darker shades on a pair of pants that are on a person. Or you could also look at anatomy pictures and get an idea of where bone structure is and everything else. But you can see even on her, she's got that little indentation in the back of her, right? Now I think it's not really going to show. It showed just a tad. But it just gives her that more rounded appearance. But she has that little indentation on the back of her butt. I call it the dimple. Alright, now I'm waiting for this to quit freezing. Alright, so that's the back, and as you can see, it's not real obvious, but she's got a little bit of shades in there that go down her leg, but it's not really super obvious in your face. And then on the front, they're on there too, down here. We haven't done the top, and we haven't done wrinkles yet. And we haven't even started on our belt, so. So over here, we're going to start working on this side. So we're going to add a layer. And I'm going to get my dark paint. What I'm going to do is just make a little half moon circle type thing or whatever right there at her crotch, and I'm going to blur that, and I'm going to take the opacity down. Okay, I don't want it to be real noticeable, so it's just going to be a slight shade, and I might bring it back up a little bit, but just a little bit of a slight shade there. And I'm going to look at her, the front of her. I don't know. I might. Okay. I'm going to add another layer and get my light purple again. And this time I'm going to go up all the way to the top. Click, hold my shift, and I'm just going to do both sides. That one's a little longer, I think. Alright. I tried to do it. I'm just going to duplicate it and flip it. I was trying to save a step, but okay. So put that there, merge it, just that one layer. And I'm going to blur this. I just want her thigh to have more shine. That's all. So I'm going to take my opacity down. I just wanted her to have a little more shine up there. And take it down a little more. Alright, now we're going to start on wrinkles. And so what I'm going to do, add a layer. And this time I have my white and I want a black paint. So, oops, I switched the wrong one. Okay, so I'm going to have my white paint. I have this on 33. Since it's a little wider, I think that 33 would be alright. And up here, I'm just going to zoom it up for you a little bit. I'm going to start on the front. And all I'm going to do is click, do a shift, click, so it's a straight line, okay? Go to my layer, and I'm going to duplicate my layer, go to my move button, and slide it down just a little bit. Now I want my bucket fill, I want my paint to be on black, and I'm going to bucket fill that layer. Okay, so I'm going to go to my layers over here. You can see all these layers that we've done. But I'm going to click my top layer and move this green arrow down. And then I'm going to go back and click my top layer, and I'm going to go to layer and merge down. Okay? It's really easy. This button here is called a smudge tool. You want it to be a little bit bigger than your wrinkle. And you just smudge them. You can try to smudge them straight or give them a little wider appearance, you know, whatever. And with your smudge, you can also move things littler. See how I can move it littler? I can just push it. And that's basically what you can do with the smudge tool, is push things. So I can push it where I want it to go. I want that a little straighter on that side. Okay. Now as you can see, I also made this a little wider on one side, but I can move it around. It doesn't matter. Alright, now I'm going to go to my filters and my blur, Gaussian blur, and I'm going to make these a 3 and blur it up to a 3. I'm going to take my paintbrush, make it as big as I can. I'm going to go to my mode and make it overlay, and then I'm going to put this on a dark purple, okay? That dark purpley black color. And I'm just going to see how big that brush is. It covers the whole thing. I'm going to click it. I'm just going to click it until I get that color I want. Alright? So I clicked it 3 times. And now I'm going to take my opacity on it down. Alright? And I'm going to look and see how big it is. I think it's a little big. So I'm going to go to my layer, scale that layer, just the layer, go to my width. I'm going to make it 475, and I might even make it a little, go scale it a little more than that. Try 400. Okay, and then move it back to where you want it. Okay. Now that you have it back where you want it, and you centered it wherever you want it, then you can go to your layer and duplicate your layer. You can go to that layer and you can transform that layer and you can flip it. I flipped it vertically, and now I'm going to move it. I gotta find it though. It's probably on the bottom. And it is. It's way on the bottom, so I'm just going to move it back up here. And I flipped it vertically, and now I want to flip it horizontally, so I'm going to go back to my layer and flip it, and I'm going to move it. Ended up way over here. Move it back. And this is just a way you can use the same wrinkle, but they don't all look uniform. Okay, then you can go and duplicate that layer and move it down. And you could actually scale it too and make it smaller than the other one. I'll make that one 350 and move it back. And then we can duplicate it again and flip it horizontally. Still gotta find it. It's over here. So you're getting, you know, your wrinkles. And these might be a little too bright still, but I'm going to save them and see what they look like for now. Or you can have them all straight across. It's up to you how you want to do it. So it's 7. Okay. Alright, so our wrinkles are up so high that they don't show. So what we're going to do is merge them. And what you do is you count. We have four. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to merge 1, 2, 3 times. Take our move button, make sure we're on that layer, and they all move. And we're just going to move them down. Now, her crotch is here. I'm going to move them down to there. And I think they're too bright. So I'm going to take the opacity down. And I'm just going to see if they're showing up yet. And they are. Can you see them? Okay, you might need to make them go up a little bit. Well, what I did with them is I made them so light. They're very, very light. I don't want them to show up that much. And I'm going to move them up a little bit. It's just, some people have in-your-face wrinkles. I like my wrinkles to be subtle. Okay, let's see if they're up a little higher. I don't want her whole crotch. Oh, why do I have that? That is not the right thing. Okay. I must have clicked that texture right ahead of it. Right above it. Oh boy. It's freezing every 2 seconds. I'll move this out of the way. Okay. And you can see this right here. I'm going to fix that. At the end, I'll fix it, okay? It's a shred right there. Okay, so I like where her wrinkles are at, but I don't know if this is just going to make it look like it's bead. But, oh boy, we freeze again. Okay, well, that's how you do those wrinkles. I think I'm going to make them a little shorter. So, I'm going to make them, it's at 603 now. I'm going to make it 500. Okay, they're a little shorter. And my V isn't showing up, so I'm going to add a layer, and I think I know why. I think it's higher up. So I added a layer, and I'm just going to take it off overlay. That'll be nice. I'm just going to go like this. And I think I need a bigger brush. Okay. And I'm going to blur it and see if... Let's see if it shows up a little more now. And you can see it just darkened the crotch area up a little bit. Now some people, and this is totally up to you, some people highlight the crotch. You would add a layer and get your lighter purple. I don't really want that wide. And just a little bit, make a line, just a little line in your crotch area. Blur it. I hardly see it, so blur it and see how bright it is. I would take the brightness off of there, make it a little more subtle. Some people don't like this in their clothes, and other people but do. It's up to you. Because the pudenda does stick out a little bit. So, some people, just to give it a realistic texture or fit, they will highlight that to make it appear like it's rounded. Other people are like, why are they pointing the crotch out? It's like an arrow, crotch, crotch, crotch. And so I actually do highlight it, but I only highlight it a little. So as you can see, it's just barely highlighted. Okay, now you want to put wrinkles. And this is another thing that some people, they're like, why do they always have wrinkles on the crotch? Because there are wrinkles on your crotch in a pair of pants, and that is why. So I do add them. And you want your black and your white paints again. So you go to your white, get your paintbrush, and I added a layer, right? Yes, I did. Okay. So you're going to take your paintbrush and you're going to try to figure out where those wrinkles go. So about here, and you kind of want them angled, but not really angled. So I'm just going to slightly angle it, and I'm going to make, and I'm using my shift, and I'm going to make about 3. I'm going to make them like that for now and see what it looks like. And then I'm going to duplicate that layer, take my move button, and move it down a little bit. About there. Get my bucket fill, put it on black, and bucket fill those layers. Click my top layer, go to this arrow, move it down, click my top layer, go to my layer, merge it down, get my smudge tool, and do the same thing and smudge them. Okay. Once they're smudged, you're going to go to blur, Gaussian blur, and make those a 3. Get your paintbrush, put it on your dark purple again, your purple that was almost black. Make your brush as big as you can. Go back here to your mode, put it on overlay. Your brush is huge. I'm just going to click it 3 times like I did before. And bring my opacity way down. Then I'm going to duplicate that layer and flip it. I gotta find it. It's way over there. Okay, I'm going to put it on this side. And I'm going to see if those wrinkles look like they're in the right spot, or if they need to be bigger or smaller. And they look like they need to maybe go in a little bit more, don't you think? And maybe up. Okay, so I'm going to remove that one and just work with this one and then duplicate it again. So what did we say? Up and in, up and in, and I'm not sure. Do you think they need to be a little tighter together? Okay, so what we're going to do is go to and scale just that layer, and on height, let's try 400, and then move it back up and in. Now I'm going to duplicate the layer and flip it horizontally, and it's going to be way over here. I'm going to move it over and try to get it in the same spot, so I'm going to zoom it back up. So it needs to go down and over a little bit. That looks like it. Okay, we'll try that. So they should be just a tad bit tighter together, a little smaller. And now they're like, let's do this. Put a better pose on. Well, now they're kind of like right there at her crotch. And then you can add some more on the side to go over if you want. So add another layer. Don't ever forget to add your layers. Make this one black again. Get your white one, bring it back down. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to make this a little bit skinnier of a brush than the first one that we did. And I'm going to see where this one stops. I'm just going to go next to it. And we want this on normal again. So I want it to be where that one kind of like that. And I'm just going to go straight across to the same over here. And go straight across, and the same with this one. And go straight across. And now I'm going to duplicate that layer, move it down a little bit. And I can already tell I probably have to make them littler anyway. Get my bucket fill, make sure that's on black. Click the top layer, move it down, click the top layer and merge. Go to my smudge and smudge them up. Are you getting a better idea of how to do a wrinkle? Okay. They're not hard to do. Okay. And now I'm going to blur it to a 3. Get my purple black paint. Make my brush all the way up. Put my mode on overlay. 1, 2, 3. Bring it down. And I think I'm going to do it 4 times this time. And maybe it is the right size. So duplicate that layer, transform and flip it, and see where it is. It's way over here. And I'm just going to set it next to the other one, about the same width as that one. Okay, save it. And place that. In here. to be lighter. So I'm going to merge them together and then bring my opacity down to make them lighter. And yeah, I think I'm going to try something else. I'm going to duplicate that layer and put another one, and I'm just going to raise it up so that it's right, you know what I mean? So that there's more of them. Actually, I think I'm going to stop it and make a new one. Okay.